Welcome to the Bret Boone Podcast. I am Bret Boone. Today on the program, I'm joined by a three-time All-Star. He's won a couple Gold Gloves, couple Silver Sluggers. He's a world champion in 2023 with the Texas Rangers. But most importantly, our next guest has one more home run than I do, which we didn't know if he was going to make it last year when we were both together in Texas, but he did. Newest member, one of the newest members, a lot of new members as of late, but one of the newest members of the New York Mets second baseman, Marcus Semien. Sam, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad I could be the first of your students for the Texas Rangers.
That's right. First student, maybe more to come. I had a lot of fun working with you. For those that don't know, last year I got to work with Marcus and the Texas Rangers as their hitting coach. And I had it was a learning process for me. At the same time, I had a lot of fun and got the juices flowing for me. And it was cool about Marcus this game is a very humbling game. You know, we play this game a long time. It's been my entire life, obviously. You step away from the game a little bit, you come back into it. And you realize it's a whole new generation of players. And the thing I appreciated most about you, Sim, is you were one of the players that remembered me. Some of these guys, I'm talking to these young kids, and they're like, yeah, Booney, I've heard of you. But that was the coolest part. From a player's perspective now, you're getting salty. You're getting up there. You were rookie in 2013. You came up with the Chicago White Sox, went on to go play for the Oakland Athletics, Toronto Blue Jays, Texas, now getting traded to New York. For Marcus Semien, when you were a kid coming up, is there any way different now you prepare to get ready for the upcoming season at age 35 than when you were just a kid coming up? What are the differences? Tell the audience.
Well, I think it starts with the body, getting the body activated. I think as a young player in the minor leagues, or even my first couple years in Oakland, I just went right into the cage, started swinging, ran out, did my sprints, and I was ready to go. Now I think it takes me probably, from 6 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game, I'm getting dressed at 6 o'clock. I'm in the weight room at 6:20. I'm in the training room. Just doing everything to make sure my body's warmed up and ready to go. Those are things that I didn't necessarily focus on as a young player because I didn't feel like I had to. But as the years went along, I've learned some things, and it's helped.
Yeah, and I remember when I was your age and I was getting to the end of my career, I know how it feels. And I told you last year, because in this game, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear from the organization, the press, whoever, it's at this particular age. We all heard it. But I kept telling you last year, I said, Marcus Semien is a young 35, and you are. You still move very well. You still have the bat speed, and but things do change when you get a little bit older. I remember going back, it's like, wow, it didn't feel the same as it did when I was a kid. Or I can't just pop in that cage and from get-go, that first pitch is that first swing is like, wow. I remember when I was a kid and I'd step into the cage, some of the veteran guys were in there, and I'd go in the first swing and just whack, and they'd kind of look at me like, really? I say, yeah, doesn't everybody feel like this? I remember Barry Larkin when I was a kid, him walking around the clubhouse with just ice from head to toe. I'm 23 years old. We're playing on that old turf in Cincinnati, and I'd look at Barry. I said, really? Are you that old? And he's like, one day, kid, you'll figure it out. Well, we all figure it out on our journey through, but it's a process.
No doubt. I think you talk about turf, just playing on, yes, nicer turf than maybe old Cincinnati, but just playing at Globe Life the last 4 years and just kind of paying attention to, different things that the turf may do to you, how your hips feel, how your back's feeling, how's your feet, the things that we need every single day to be a middle infielder and a guy who still wants to run the bases. I tried to pay attention to those things. I think Logan with the Rangers was well aware of those things and well aware of, the mileage I have on my body and the age I'm at. And we tried to put together a program that best worked for me. And Now I'm thinking, new organization, new people, time to, make sure my routine is on point with the new team.
Isn't it amazing though? You think about stuff like that, like the turf and how it affects your body. I remember when I was young playing in climates. I played in Cincinnati, and there's some hot summers on that turf. But being when you're that age, I don't remember the weather bothering me. I remember late in my career, I'd be like, "Wow, it's too hot to play today. It's too cold to play today." That's the things we go through throughout, our big league careers is just adjusting to everything. But it just seems like when we get older, we kinda notice everything, like that turf and that, "Oh, man, it's hot today." When we were a kid, it's like, we don't care how hot it is, we just play.
Yeah, I mean, coming up to the big leagues from a minor league city, most likely it was in a hot weather city.
Yeah.
I think coming up with the White Sox, you get Birmingham Double A, Charlotte Triple A. Those are two of the hottest places you can play summer baseball. So, um, and then you make the team the next year in Chicago, and it's the coldest weather you've ever seen. So it was fun. But yeah, I think now when you get to a hot weather city, I try and remind myself that this is what we did in the minor leagues, and we played some of the best baseball we've ever played in the minor leagues to get here. So let's play like that.
Alright, going to the Mets. Ex I've got some questions for you about it. I never played in New York. It was never my home field. I loved going to New York, especially Yankee Stadium, but I just love to go to New York just because of the atmosphere. Fans hostile towards you, but man, they care. It was similar to going to Chicago or going to Boston. You walk down the street and they'll yell your name and we're gonna kick your ass tonight. It's in there. I felt like I was never insulted by it. I said, no, these are just passionate fans that really want their team to win. At the end of my career, I always thought, man, it'd be cool maybe to play 1 year in New York. It never worked out for me. Is that something throughout your journey that you ever thought about? One day it might be cool to play in the Big Apple, the probably the biggest hot seat in all of sports, New York. Did that ever pop into your mind throughout your career?
Every year, I had always wanted to, so
Really?
it's funny how it's come full circle, and it was a trade. It wasn't free agency. But as I went through the free agency process, I was fortunate enough to do it twice, and kind of was paying attention to what the New York teams were doing because it, like you said, it was a place that I enjoyed visiting. It's a place that I really took notice of the energy. Whether it's around the ballpark or in the ballpark, fans are ready and fans want to see a show, and that was something I loved. So now here we are. We're going to Queens, and just seeing how the off season has unfolded. I think my move, being traded over there, was like the first move that they made, and it started this whole wave of moves where the core of the team last year was starting to go other places, and you just saw how people were reacting and paid close attention to it. But as the offseason went along, I think ownership and David Stearns knew, we're going to go after it this year, and we want the kind of players that we really like, and they put a nice team together, I think.
I was looking at the Mets this year, and Pete Alonso's been a big part of that organization for a long time. He's moved on. Diaz, the closer, has moved on, but you've added a lot of big parts. You got Juan Soto in right field, one of the best hitters in all of baseball. Francisco Lindor, who we just found out is going to start the year not playing because of an injury, but he'll be back relatively soon. You got Polanco from Seattle, who I watched him quite closely last year because he signed back after a down year, had a really nice year for the Mariners a year ago. I don't know how much first base is going to play, how much is going to DH on that team, but definitely a guy who hit the ball over the fence. And then the late addition was Bo Bichette. And he's probably going to be asked to go play third base. He's been a shortstop like you when you were young, came up as a shortstop, ended up being a second baseman. He's been a shortstop his whole life. At the end of last year, he went over to second. Now he's probably going to go over to third, but a hell of a hitter. I look at the big that the big offseason acquisition you got was Peralta from the Brewers. You faced him. I remember watching you guys face him. Go, this guy's tough. I think we ended up beating him that day, the one time I saw us. But I'll tell you what, he's the real deal. You got Senga, McLean, the young kid. You got Holmes, who came over from the Yankees a couple years ago, and Mania. So that's a pretty formidable starting rotation. I look at that Mets team. If you can stay healthy on paper, although you're in a tough division with the Atlanta Braves, who had a rough year last year, but they're going to be back, and the Phillies, who's been that constant rival for the New York Mets. It's going to be a tough division, but I look at that team on paper, especially with the addition of Marcus Semien, who's going to be big. You know what I think of you. You know what I think of the work ethic you bring and the way you go about it. When people ask me, what is Marcus Semien? I said, he's a pro. And that's the way I always thought of you about how you conducted your business. I think you guys are pretty formidable going into spring training. You should be excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny coming full circle with Bo. I came in as a shortstop, switched positions. Now he's coming in as a shortstop, switching positions. So I can walk him through that for sure. But with Lindor, the hamate, I've seen guys come back from the hamate quicker than others. I saw Matt Olson get hurt in opening series in Japan against Seattle 2019, and he ended up hitting 36 homers that year, and we won 97 games. You saw Jose Ramirez, I think, was it last season, missed 4 weeks or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Come back strong. But yeah, we've had 3 guys show up to camp with that injury, so kind of interesting to see what's going on there. But I'm excited about the bullpen that the Mets have put together as well. You talk about Devin Williams and Weaver. We faced them in New York. Those guys are tough. I think Williams had a slow start to his year, but he ended up being exactly who he's always been in the end of the year. And Weaver, he ever since he's made that adjustment to his windup with the slide step, I think he's just been tough to pick up. So I'm excited to meet those guys and play behind those guys and join a lineup, with 2 of the best hitters in the major leagues, in Soto and Lindor. I'm going to learn everything I can from those guys.
One last thing I forgot to tell you yesterday when we talked off camera. Jake Boone is Mets front office. He works for
really?
you guys. I told him, I said, you got to go see Sim. He just got down to spring training. So when you get there, look for Jakey. He'll be wandering around. Yeah, he just came over from the MLB side, and now he's signed and he's a part of that front office with the Mets. I said, you gotta go talk to Sim. He's a good one. He's like, oh, Dad, I definitely will. You've met Jake this past season. He was in and out of the locker room once in a while, so he'll be over there with you as well. And we're going to get to the World Series a little bit later, but 2023, you won a World Series with Texas. It's kind of like I've never won a World Series, got to go to one, got beat. You've gone, you won. Looking at this team on paper, without a doubt, if you just go on the talent and everybody stays healthy, that's a championship caliber ball club. How long does it take for you in your experience on the winning teams, the losing teams, to get a feeling around that clubhouse, being with the guys, interacting, playing together? How long does it take before you go, we potentially have something special here?
I think it can happen in spring. I think you get to like the last part of spring training, you see the lineup on the lineup card, and you're like, ooh, this looks like the one we might put out there. Let's see what we can do today. Let's see how many runs we can put up with this group. I've seen that happen, in multiple years where it's like get to the end of camp, you see who's going to be doing what in the lineup, how the lineup's going to gel. And I hope it happens that quick. But if it doesn't, it's a long season. You get through the first, I'd say month and a half of the season where the weather's a little chilly. You see what you can do. Hopefully you have a good first month. But once that weather gets hot, I feel like everybody takes off, especially in New York. They say the ball starts flying a little bit better in the summer. Guys are starting to figure out what they're doing at the plate. And the whole focus has been on defense for David Stern. So guys are going to be picking it, preventing runs. And you look at the arms we have, I think it can happen sooner than you think.
Now that I'm on the other side of the ledger, I'm not going to be your hitting coach this year. Through your years of Major League Baseball, what for you, the hitting coaches you've had, uh, what do you look for from, and this is just me asking the question for the audience, what do you look for in a hitting coach? As this being my first run at being a hitting coach, I'll tell you one thing, it was very enlightening. I learned a lot. It was educational. I looked at a Marcus Semien and things that you and I discussed, and how you said, Booney, I got to get the ball close to me. At first, that was like a jigsaw puzzle. I said, well, I've never heard it put that way. Once we worked together and I watched you and I saw what you were talking about, it clicked, and I said, wow, that's what makes him Marcus Semien. He's different. And Corey Seager is going to be a completely different animal. He's going to look at it completely different. And I'm using Texas Rangers as examples. Wyatt Langford is going to come into that cage. And I can't have a conversation with Wyatt Langford that I would with Marcus. It's going to be completely different. We all have the end goal is production, but the way you go about it, and Evan Carter walks in, and I have to have a completely different conversation with him. So I found it very educational. I learned a lot. I learned how different everybody is, and as a coach, you just try to do the best you can to put a good thought in the mind, give them a little bit of an idea. Sometimes the best option is to get out of your way. When I see something good, it's like, man, I don't want to say anything. He's got it. Anything I could say it's not gonna get any better than what I just watched in your pregame. So it was a learning process for me, but it was interesting because I saw it through different lenses. I've always had to approach hitting from my standpoint and how I thought. And now all of a sudden, no, that's not my job. And I always tell you, I said, Sim, you're the player. I'm the background player. I'm just trying to find anything I can do to help you, give you a chance. If I can help you 1% tonight, then I did my job, because you feel kind of, and I talked to you a lot about this, you feel kind of helpless once the game starts. It's like, man, all I can do now is pull like hell, and see my boys do well tonight. What do you see? Tell the audience, what do you look for from maybe not even a hitting coach, but a coach in general? What do you look for that have helped you the
Well,
best in your career?
I think making it specific to hitting coach is important because I think it's the hardest job in baseball. Honestly, the hardest staff job in baseball. You just explained so much right there of what you went through. Um, but what you said was, how can I get this guy to be on point tonight? So that means every day can be different. And you've got 12, 13 hitters to worry about. Um, so I definitely felt for you. I've always kind of paid attention to how hitting coaches manage that. What I would love from a hitting coach, I would say, during the year is just to continue to help me get in the right position to be on time for a fastball in the zone. And how do I control the zone and hit that guy's best fastball? Um, I may not get fastballs the whole night, so now you start talking about approach. Okay, where should I kind of hone into tonight? And that's what we talked about, getting the ball closer to me, because I get attacked with sliders away off the plate all day. So anything that starts middle away, if I'm getting mostly sliders, is going to be off the plate away. So I didn't necessarily want to look there. So kind of looking in there and knowing my strengths, I hit the ball closer to me better. Maybe they'll come in there every once in a while. I don't want to miss it. If they make a mistake, I'll be ready for it. So those are things that you probably learned about me, and we work together to make sure I'm on time for the best fastball and control the zone, and let the ability take care of itself.
Yeah, it like I said, it was very educational for me, because when you first said that to me when I first got there, and I'm just getting to know you, I'm just getting to know all the guys, and I didn't think, well, that's wrong. I thought, no, let me try to decipher what he's trying to tell me. And the more I watched, and when we worked together and I'd watch you, I said, I now I know what he's trying to do. And then I'd watch you in the game and take that in the game. And it's like you were one of the best players, definitely on the Rangers in all of baseball, I thought, a year ago, at situational hitting. And I said, when Marcus is up there to do a job, he's got that uncanny ability to focus, not because a lot of players, when you get in a big situation, a sacrifice fly situation, uh, when we have to execute a situational hitting, a lot of guys, man, that's when the adrenaline starts flowing and they start to panic. You kind of had that ability to draw it back and slow your heartbeat down at that time. You had the ability, uncanny ability, not to chase that slider off the plate, and that's when it clicked for me. He said he's looking for it close to him because if he looks for it out there, maybe that's a chase pitch for him. And his brain is wired to, if I keep it close to me, I don't even think about that pitch away, that nasty slider that misses off the plate by 6 inches. And that's how I learned how to understand a Marcus Semien. For other guys, there were different things I had to look at and go, okay, for Evan Carter, it's this. For a Josh Young, it was this. But the thing I found that to be successful, we all have to do certain things, but we get there in very different ways.
Well, it's important for you. I mean, it takes a lot of time to figure that out for every single guy. It takes conversations after the game. I mean, we talked on the phone. You know, we get back to the hotel, we'd be on the phone talking about stuff. So the job never stops. But yeah, the faster you can figure that stuff out. I mean, you were new to the organization. You were new to all of us. So it wasn't necessarily the most fair thing. I mean, in Oakland, I had Darren Bush for 6 years. We could look at it. We give each other a look and know, okay, that's what we're thinking today. Like you already know, so it's important to, it's nice to have that continuity if you can have the same guy for at least a couple years. But I get it. The business is tough. It's a result-oriented business. And, a lot of hitters will come up to the major leagues and they'll have 6 different hitting coaches in 6 years. And then all of a sudden they're a free agent. It's like crazy to me. But that's how it's been. I'm looking forward to meeting the guys with the Mets. I've heard great things about Jeff Albert, Troy Snitker. And, I just kind of paid attention to how the Mets have developed their players, whether it's minor league players or major league players, and they really take it serious. I think we're all still developing at the big league level. I'm going into my 12th full season, learning different things every single day. So, the work never stops to keep developing, even though you may meet a coach that thinks, maybe you already have it all figured out. You know what you're going to do this whole year. Like, that's definitely not true for me.
Started off in Chicago. Spent a lot of years at Oakland under a Bob Melvin. You started with Robin Ventura. You went to Oakland. Bob Melvin you came to Texas as a free agent from Toronto, and you played for Bruce Bochy. That free agent year, or no? Was it your free agent year 21 when you hit 45, 102?
Yeah, that was in Toronto. So I played for
That was
Charlie
in Toronto
Montoya.
before you came to Texas.
Yeah, Charlie Montoya was manager there. Schneider was bench coach, the manager now.
Right. I want to talk to you about your Texas time. It's 4 years. This past year didn't end up how we wanted it to, but there were a lot of positive things. But man, we had a lot of injuries this year and a lot to overcome, and it wasn't quite in the cards for us finishing 500. Always we're looking for better than that, but certain years are certain years, and the longer you play, you're gonna experience everything. But in 2023, your second year in Texas, you guys won a World Series. I remember watching that whole postseason unfold. I remember watching you guys go to Seattle, and I forget what you had to do. You just had to win. You had to split the series. You had to split the series and you won the division. If you lost 3 out of 4, you're the wild card. Exactly. And I remember it came down to the end and you end up losing 3 out of 4. And I'm like, no way. At that time, I'm going, now they're the wild card. Explain to me that little run, because it was unbelievable. Then I watched you in the postseason. I saw what that bullpen did in that postseason, the way they ham and egged it, and just everything was clicking at the right time, and whoever was put in did their job. I remember watching that whole postseason, not only you guys, but Arizona, all those teams that were in the postseason that year, and I was amazed. But your guys is in particular, just because you went into Seattle, it was your division to lose. You figured you were going to split and at least win the division. All of a sudden, things change, and you're not going back to Texas. You're taking a flight to go somewhere else because of the outcome of that series. From that Seattle series through the postseason, just take me on a brief tour on what kind of an emotional roller coaster that was, and you end up winning the whole darn thing. And I just remember, because Bruce Bochy's been a buddy of mine for a long time, and I just remember smiling at the end when you guys won it, and I went, holy crap. I didn't see that coming from that last series in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, if I could start at the beginning of the season,
Sure.
The
Love it.
season we came into that year, with we kind of down off of 2022. 2022 was not a good year for the Texas Rangers. I mean, that was Corey and I's first year. We started off the year with Chris Woodward. John Daniels is in charge, and Chris Young is the general manager. So Woodward's gone, and Daniels is gone. They both got let go in like July. So then Bees is the manager. And then we roll into, we don't finish strong. We roll into 23. Bochy's our manager. Bochy comes into spring training with a great attitude. He's rejuvenated. He had his time off. He kind of retired and then came back. And the speech he gave us was, let's play as one. Let's not be selfish, worrying about our own individual accomplishments. Let's play as one and see what we can do together. We get to opening series against a very good Phillies team who just came off a World Series runner-up. And we put up we put up a bunch of runs the first game. And we put up 16 runs the next game. All of a sudden, we're looking at each other like, oh, we're hitting this year. Our offense was on, firing on all cylinders. And we got to the All-Star break, and we had like 4 guys starting in the All-Star game. Guys were having career years. But our bullpen was struggling a little bit during the first half of the year. Then we get to the second half, and the bats slow down a little bit. And the bullpen starts to figure it out. And then the starting pitching has been rolling this whole time, even without DeGrom, with Tommy John. So we get to, we play okay in the second half. We're in first place for most of the year, and we get to the end of the year, and Houston catches fire, and we have to win 2 games in Seattle. It's a 4-game series. Seattle has some of the best young pitching in the big leagues, and we run into Gilbert, Kirby, Castillo, and I forget who the other arm was. I don't think it was, maybe Wu.
It might have been Wu. And who's the other kid? Is it
Miller?
Miller. I always
so
mix
whoever
up
it
Miller
was,
and Walker.
They have 5 number ones. I think Seattle has 5 number ones, and we just couldn't get it going the first 2 games of that series. Game 3 we win, so we clinch the playoff spot. In game 4 we lose 1-0. George Kirby shuts us out. so we're like, okay, all we had to do was win, and we get to go host at home. Now we're going to a wild card, or we get a bye and host at home. Now we're getting a wild card series in Tampa. So we fly from Seattle to Tampa across the country. And, after that game, we were a little down, but we like, hey, we're a playoff team. Let's have a good time on this flight. Let's figure out what we need to do. And, we had a really good series in Tampa in an environment that was not necessarily playoff. It was not packed. It was like 17,000. So it's kind of like a calm environment in Tampa that we played well in. And kind of got out of that first round. And from then on, we caught fire. We caught fire in Baltimore. We won the first 2 games on the road against the Astros in the ALCS. And we get home, and we lost it for 3 games. We lost 3 games in a row at home, and we go win the next 2 for the ALCS. So, unbelievable run just to get to the World Series. As we're watching, we're like, okay, we're probably going to play Philly, but this Arizona team is looking good. Their arms are looking good. They're just coming up with timely hitting. They got speed. They're playing defense. And all of a sudden, Arizona's in it. So that was just an emotional roller coaster to see who we were going to play. We got to game 1, kind of got had a tough game, and then walk-off or game tying homer and walk-off homer by Adolis. Next game we get boat raced, and Merrill Kelly pitched the game of his life against us. He threw the ball really well. And so, we go into Arizona. My wife and I, we just had our 4th child. We take our baby all the way to Arizona. She's like 6 days old. We take the family to Arizona, and those were probably 3 of the best games I've had in my career. I feel like I think 5 RBIs in one of those games, hit some home runs, and we won those 2 games that we needed to win, or we won 3 games, I think, in Arizona to win the World Series. So very special year. I think Bochy kept everything together, but he really didn't have to do much. Everybody was having a pretty good year. Everybody had good attitude, and we just kind of weathered the storm when things didn't go well.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. And you mentioned the Arizona. I remember watching the other side going, okay, they go into Philly, and I just thought, Arizona's done. It's over. Because you know how Philly is in the postseason, probably one of the most hostile environments to go into as an opponent. And they went in there, and everybody had written them off. And the next thing you know, Arizona's in the World Series. I'm like, there's no way. Nobody picked Arizona to be in they were like a 500 ball club during the season. All of a sudden, they're in the World Series, facing you guys who went from, like you mentioned, having the bye, starting in Texas, sleeping in our own beds, to flying across country because we lost 3 out of 4 in Seattle. And it's like it was unbelievable. But I remember at the end of that postseason, I thought it was one of the best postseasons I watched. I thought this year's World Series is one of the best World Series I've ever seen. But that postseason 23, start to finish, all the teams involved, I remember thinking, wow. And then watching you guys win it, I just thought that was pretty unbelievable. Where they started, the emotions you went through from having to flip flop and then winning it, it was pretty darn special. By the way, you mentioned hitting homers. I still don't have the bat you owe me. For those of you watching the Bret Boone Podcast, listening to the Boone Podcast, I said, Sam, and by the way, I want you to explain that to the veteran players watching this. I was mesmerized by these guys. I'd say, Sam, today, he goes, I don't know, I got a whole bunch of them over there. You'd walk in and just grab a bat. And remember what I'd say? I don't know how you can do that. Don't you test them out? No, they're all the same. And I just thought to myself, I always had to take them out, hit with them, practice with them. No, that one's not good. That one's good. But you just kind of would pick one, and I was amazed. I'm like, how does he just pick a bat and start whacking away? And then I remember when you changed bat this year, you were scuffling. All of a sudden, you go to that different, a little bit different style, different color bat, and you catch fire. And I said, and you just hit BP with it. You hit everything with it. And you say, yeah, Booney, these bats last a long time. It's different than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get you that bat, first of all.
I want it signed.
All, I got you. Yeah, I mean, most guys are using maple and birch. I know you use ash. Most guys probably use ash back then.
Right.
I started out using ash, actually, my first couple of years, but maple does last a little longer. What I usually do is I like to use the same bat for everything until it breaks. And I know it's kind of weird, but I just like to have that relationship with that bat. We're hitting flips, we're hitting BP, and we're playing the game with this bat, and definitely make sure all of them are tarred up and ready to go, but in case I break one. But that's just kind of how I've done it over these years of using maple or birch. And I think Corey's the same way. I mean, by the end of his,
I watched him, same thing. No,
he doesn't break many bats, and he's tarring it every at bat. That thing is caked up with pine tar. That's just kind of how guys are doing it now. But other guys are switching bats every at bat, like Jock.
Yeah, he's picking other guys' bats, different names on his bat. But you're right. It's kind of a testament to how they've got the wood dialed in so well now, that you can just use the same bat and it will last a long time. Like you said, Corey, I'd ask him the same question. I said, he goes, yeah, I just keep using the same bat. A lot of guys use the same bat and they just leave it in the cage. Some guys are just leave it in the cage, pick it up. That's my game bat. It was unbelievable to me because I was just crazy about it. I was just like, oh, you couldn't do that with an ash. I mean, you had to try to keep it. If you got a real good one, you had to kind of protect it. You wanted a little wear and tear, but you couldn't abuse it because it would start to splinter and check off. But these new bats, they're amazing. Mm-hmm. Last thing I wanted to touch on and see if you had a thought on this. You're kind of a throwback player. And I look at, I went through your years in the big leagues. 4 times you've led the big leagues in games played. 4 times you've led the big leagues in plate appearances. So that tells me one thing, and we use the term now, the guy posts. Marcus Semien posts. And I can I can back you up on that. And I would tell everybody, I said, if Sim can play, he's playing. Unless he's got a broken bone that he can't play with, he's going to be on that field. That's how I was brought up in the game. Unless something is just, I can't get out there, I'm out there because I got to put up numbers that my teammates expect me to be there. I don't look at the modern game as, I think it's a culture. I think how the young players are brought up now, it's different than when I was coming up. Maybe even a little bit different than when you were coming up. You know, you were just kind of, I retired probably 5 years right before you started, and it was different then to it is now. But where do you think the game's going? Do you think there's going to be in the future more Marcus Semiens, or we're going to start to kind of go back to that guys that, hey, they expect to be in the lineup every day, or are we going to keep going the other way where no, guys play 4 or 5 days, they take a break. You know, I got guys now walking around with watches, what my REM sleep was, stuff that was unimaginable to me as a player. I see the benefits and I don't just dismiss them. But at the same time, which way do you see it going in the future, being a veteran player?
Well, I think there's a lot more things to measure now, whether it's our exit velocity, the the amount of steps we run on the field. They can track all that stuff that I don't think they could track before, and they would assume that they would get our best, exit velocities and sprint speeds and things that add up to performance if we get a day or two every once in a while. And I get that, but I just feel like I've always come up in a world where you can still do something if you're not at your best because we're playing baseball. We're not having to, play football where you have to be as strong as you can possibly be every Sunday. You're
Right.
playing a game where
One
you
game.
can run one game a week. And you're also playing a game where you get better the more you play and you get better the more you learn. And as you get through April, May, and you get to June, July, August, September, you should be firing on all cylinders because of how much baseball you played. It's a game of repetition. It's a game of timing. All those things in my mind were, okay, the more I get going, the more I play, the better I'm going to get. It also, that mindset came from how I was brought up in the minor leagues with Buddy Bell in charge. Buddy Bell's a guy who played, I think he played 162 multiple times. He always was in the 160s, 159s when he played. So he wanted his players to be doing those type of things too. And he said to all of his minor league managers, he said, if they say they can play them. Those are guys we want. And I got to the big leagues and watched Alexi Ramirez do the same thing. He's playing 161, 160. He get 1 or 2 days off, and I get to play short. So that brought that to Oakland, and I met Billy Beane and talked to him, and I saw the shortstops that he had over the years. Miguel Tejada did the same thing. Played
Yeah, he did.
162. Played
Absolutely.
162 all the time. Won an MVP over there, and I wanted to bring that culture to Oakland. He already established it with those guys, but then you look at a guy like Matt Olson do it. He's done better than me at playing every single day now. You look at guys like, even Chapman. He's had some injuries, but if he's healthy, he's playing. He's ready to play every single day. That's a culture that I tried to bring to Texas as well because I knew that, getting paid in this game isn't everything, but I knew that was how I was able to sign a long-term deal. Everyone talked about the durability. He posts. He's in the middle of the lineup or hitting leadoff, playing middle infield every single day. We don't have to worry about Marcus. In those years where my bat was going great, there were no days off. Most of the days off I've gotten in the last couple of years was, maybe I hit a slump. You know what I mean? So that's where the game is probably going, where you try and get guys days off. But if you can keep it over 158, 159 in regular season, that's always the goal for me. 162 is for sure the goal, but I get it now.
I never played 162. I was, I'd always play in the 150s, but I was like you. I didn't want a day off. It was like I'm not taking a day off. I remember now being on the other side of the ledger this year when the thought we brought up, hey, maybe does Marcus need a little bit of a breather? Me being your biggest advocate sometimes to say I don't think it would hurt him to just take a day and just watch a game, but I knew at the end of the conversation I'd look at Bocha and say good luck. Good luck getting him to take a day off because I knew what your response was going to be. I think the I don't think it's for everybody in the game, but I think it should be the mindset of everybody. Does that make sense? Just like a starting pitcher, every starting pitcher is not going to have the luxury of going 7, 8 innings. Maybe the top dogs will, and there's a few out there that'll go. See, you look at a Tarek Skubal. If he's got his stuff, you know he's going 7, 8 innings. But there's not a lot of those guys. It's usually the 4 or 5 innings. And I'm not. The game has changed, and I'm going to respect that and how organizations go about planning their ball clubs, putting a lot of a lot of money in the bullpen and setting up their squad a certain way. All I think, whether you're a position player, whether you're a starting pitcher, if you got the ball today, act like you're going to pitch 9 innings.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're going to. If you're a position player, you got to play every day because I think sometimes if you fall into that trap of, well, all the metrics look like I shouldn't play today, all of a sudden mentally that becomes defeating. And I think if you plan, I want to play 162, 99 out of 100 guys going into this big league season aren't going to play 162 games. But the mindset to play 162, I think, can do nothing but be beneficial to not only the player, but his teammates.
I think you said it. I mean, the routine is the most important thing too, because you treat every day like you're playing. You take care of your body. You make sure you're getting your workouts in, your mobility, and all these things to be able to play 162 games if you need to, and another month of baseball in the playoffs. So those are things that I take into consideration when I'm training. And yes, we play every single day. We get some built-in off days in the schedule. Take advantage of those off days in the schedule, and rehydrate, get your body right, and we get paid to play baseball every single day. So let's do it.
It was weird for me, and for those of you guys listening to the Boom podcast right now, Marcus, unfortunately for us, down the stretch, he got injured, and he got to a point where he could not play, and he was in a cast. And I remember as a player, the years where usually the time I missed was a little bang up injury, where it was a 3 or 4 day thing where I just couldn't go. My hand was too swollen. I sprained my ankle really bad. I had to take 2 or 3 days off. And I remember my trainers and maybe some teammates, coaching staff, definitely, I'd be out on the bench for the games and they'd be like, Booney, you're a real pain in the ass when you don't play. Like and I'm like, what do you mean? I get it. Now I understand it because I watch this kid play Semien every day. Loved our conversation. When he got hurt and he was on that bench every day, he'd be driving me nuts. I said, Sam, I need you to be playing again, man. And we almost made it to where we were going to get you back. But it's almost like when you have the mindset and the track record that you have, you don't know what to do because you're not used to doing it. You feel bad. You try to get out of the way of your teammates who have to play that day, even though you're one of the main guys, one of the main name guys on the team. It's like I always felt like I was a burden to everybody else when I was hurt. Like I'd go to the training room for my treatment, and I'd feel terrible because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not playing today. I got to let these guys get. I felt like I was taking a trainer away from somebody. So it's like, well, when can I come back and mix it in, to get out of their way in the cage? I want to get a few swings, maybe if I'm coming back, but the guys in the lineup today need the cage. So you feel almost like a fish out of water, especially someone like you that is so used to playing so many games. And all of a sudden, when they take that away from you for a month at a time, you're a fish out of water.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a difference. Like if you're on the injured list for a while, that's one thing. If you're getting your day off, I still feel like you need to be ready to play that day. A lot of guys want to take their day off, and I'm off. I'm not doing anything. I get it from a mental standpoint, but anything can happen in a game where you're in the first inning. So I
Absolutely.
whenever I had a day, you know, from boats or whatever when I was healthy, I'd make sure I was ready. I'd still be hitting and doing everything because I didn't want to get caught off guard. Um, if something happened to somebody else. And plus,
Right.
the way pinch hitting goes, guys are gonna pinch hit late in the game. No matter if a
Absolutely.
lefty comes in, you're gonna play. So, I wanted to be ready. But yeah, when you're out, I was trying to come back in, I guess it was 4 weeks with a broken foot.
Yep.
So preparing, trying to get your work in early, stay out of the way of the guys who are playing, and just try and support. Watch every single at bat you can from the guys. If they have something, talk to them about it. Defensively, I got to watch Cody Freeman play a lot of second base. He'd kind of been moving all around the diamond. He came up as a catcher, and then he's playing third base, and then second base, and tried to just be in every pitch of the game just so I could be there for him if he needed something. So I think that's our duty as players. If you're hurt and you're a guy who's been around a lot and you can help somebody, or just walk them through a certain play, like be there for them. I try to do that.
Did you find you got your place? Where are you going to live?
Yeah, we are not going to be in the city. So we just had our
Oh,
fifth.
good.
We had our fifth baby 3 weeks before the trade. So everybody's coming. We're doing the homeschool thing now so that everybody can be together, which has been new for us. But just having that flexibility to have Tara and the kids come with me during this has been big for my mental. Just to know that we all get to be together, because these years, you don't get these years back. Our kids are growing up fast, and I don't want to miss any more of it than I already have, just from being on the road. So we're excited. Florida is going to be, new for us fairly. I've only done one Florida spring training out of 15 spring training. So, that'll be different. But I think just getting into the clubhouse, meeting the guys, once you get into the rhythm of things, everything feels the same wherever you are, in the country. So I'm excited for that part of it, and going on to the Big Apple, a big city that is far from home and, going to be new, but, it's going to be something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. And we were talking off camera. I got to live that life, and I told you it's cool that you can take advantage of this in this situation with the 5 kids now, and your older kids will really remember these times being with dad all the time. Later in your career, it's just a cool thing. I got to, my whole life was growing up with my dad, and he played for 19 years, and I started going to the ballpark in like 1978, and he didn't quit playing until 1990. So just having that, being around the game, those kids one day they're going to remember that as some of their fondest memories wherever they go on, and however much success they have in the athletic world. They'll always remember, this year going to New York, those years when you used to bring your kids down this year and hit with them in the cage. They're going to remember those times and go, Dad, remember in Texas we used to go down under. Yeah, because I remember all those times, and they're really cool memories. So I'm happy that you and Tara are going to get to do that with the kids, and I wish you nothing but the best, man. It was a pleasure working with you this year. I'll always be following you. I'll see you somewhere this year along your journey. I'm going to get that bat from you. Hide the bat, keep it, put it somewhere special for Boone. I wish
So you
I
want,
forgot to grab it. I
so you
want the
want the
bat that you.
one.
I want the one that you hit 253.
Okay.
I have
That's the one.
252 homers. Marcus now he's going to be adding on, but he's got 253. And I was wondering last year, are we going to get to it? Or are we going to get to it? Well, he got it one more, and then he got hurt. So he
Yeah,
would
I
have
was in
probably had.
Toronto,
He
so I
probably
was
would have
trying.
had 5 or 6 more.
I was trying to, get a bigger lead last year on you, but decided to foul one off my foot and end my season. And I'll get you that bat regardless. And I appreciate all the hard work that you put in. We talked about what a hitting coach does, what the gig is, but just talking man to man, and as a former second baseman and power hitter, a lot of similarities, in our careers, and I really enjoyed that time. When the hire first happened, obviously everyone's like, well, this is middle of the season, what's going on? But I knew it was gonna be something special. So I'll always be grateful for that. 5 months we had together, and please keep in touch. I'm glad I got to be on the podcast. I had my shirt. I was gonna wear my shirt, but I didn't
Oh,
do
I
it.
didn't even think about that. Why don't you have the shirt on?
I'm sorry,
I
but
might
thank you.
have to throw that up in the advertisement for it. I'll have the Semien picture. I tell you, I'll make you look good.
Because
I
the
think I
deal
took
was
a
this.
couple.
What was the deal? If we won, I would wear the shirt. Or it was something like that where I was
We had to
like,
no, we had to win by.
we scored 8 runs or something
We
crazy.
had to score 7.
Okay, that's what
Was
it
it
was.
7 or 8? Yeah,
Something like
yeah.
that.
He'd drop. He'd be rocking the Boone Podcast shirt every day after we scored 7 or more. And if we score 6, he'd look at me and go, "No shirt tomorrow."
There was
I
a point
remember
where we wore it a couple days in a row. So
down that stretch, the young kids, when all the veterans were out, they were thrilling us a little bit. We kept winning it. Then all of a sudden at the end, man, we just lost too many in a row. But it was a good run. Uh, yeah, it was quite a year.